I dream and the world trembles.
You are listening to the Emerald Dreamcast, a World of Warcraft podcast, with your hosts, Hazel and Wow Martian.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the podcast in our post-World of Warcraft movie world. Actually, not World of Warcraft movie. I keep saying that. Oops, and there goes the intro again. How about auto-repeat be off? There we go. Welcome to the stream, guys. Like I said, in a post-Warcraft movie world. Hard to believe after all these years of anticipation, it now is a thing, and it is now out, and all the anticipation's over. And somewhere in the twisting nether is my...
I dream and the world trembles.
Oh, well, there we go. See?
Yeah.
By the way, I have to say, long time ago, one of the earlier episodes on your YouTube channel, actually, when you put it on there, somebody mentioned that our intro's not very appropriate for the show.
I've had multiple people privately message me telling me it creeps them the hell out.
Really?
I'm just gonna throw that out there.
It really Why is it creepy?
I'll be honest with you, I haven't listened to it all the way through myself because every time I start it kind of creeps me out. But
you helped choose the music.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, well, time to change the intro, kids.
It's a work in progress.
Information I could have used yesterday.
I swore I feel like we had this talk. Did we not have this talk?
No,
maybe it was one of those ones that I had like in the shower in my head.
I think so.
To myself, I practiced it, but then I never actually talked to you. That sounds like something I would do.
I mentioned in the comments to the person that, because I wanted more information as to what that meant, whether it was like, and I get it because our show is kind of like light and fun and stuff like that. So I could see it being like a little bit too dramatic for what we do. But I would have never got creepy.
We could dub it over with like a rap song.
No, I was thinking like
like
the Betty Hill.
Yo 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 yo!
Oh no!
I dream. I got a dream. All right, I'm done.
You have no idea how done you are. If anybody wants to join me on the podcast, there is a spot open now because this just got. You talk about creepy. You just went yo yo yo. I have a dream.
Yeah, am I not allowed to say that?
Not if you want credibility.
Anyways, welcome to the show. It is everybody's favorite day that doesn't start with a W at all. And I'm so glad you guys are here.
Yes, my co-host who can murder people and still have a bunny.
I mean, that's a privilege available to everybody.
That is becoming a thing now. Apparently, it's supposed to be on T-shirts and stuff, so...
So as Joe was saying, the Warcraft movie came out. How long ago was this? It feels like forever.
When the movie actually came out?
Yeah. I think because I was able to go see it the day early because of that midnight release thing we were talking about.
Okay, well, it's been 5 days since that.
Yeah.
It's been 4 days since its actual release.
Right. It's so weird. Like, I expected to go to the midnight thing, and then it's like, oh, you can go see the midnight release at 7, and I'm like, that's not how that works. I mean, I'll go.
Right.
I'll go see it earlier so I don't have to stay up until 3 a.m. But no. Right. I was a little disappointed that I could have. I'm sure there was a midnight showing, but who actually wants to
most of the time they don't do that anymore at all. Like you said, it became a thing where, adults can't do that. And I mean, if I could have gone Thursday, I would have, but even at 7, having to work the next day, that can get kind of rough. Yeah. So
probably paying the butt for the theater too. You got to find people that are willing to work it. And...
Right. Well, they don't have a problem with that most of the time. But they used to have the midnight shows. Now they've made these 7 o'clock shows, which make no sense. Like you said, it's still the day before. Why is that a release? It makes no sense.
Yeah.
But whatever. Doesn't matter.
But we got to see it a day early, so there's that.
There you go. So how was? We were talking a little bit before show, and I'm curious how your... And again, a lot of times, just so folks know, we don't really talk about the stuff pre-show because, we don't want to ruin it.
We specifically avoid each other all week so we don't exhaust our material.
People avoid me anyway, but this actually we don't really get into a lot of details because we want to save it for the show. So I really don't know. What was your movie-going experience like? How was the crowd, that sort of thing?
Was very disappointed by the turnout. Like, I was really, really hyped to be there. I had, like, barely accomplished anything the whole day because I was so excited. I, like, repicked out my outfit, like, 3 times. I ended up wearing jeans and a WoW shirt. Really creative, I know. But I was so excited to go, and we went, and I thought for sure, I mean, it's the first showing of the Warcraft movie. I didn't think it would sell out all weekend, but I thought this is the first time you can see it in this city. This is, like, probably the most popular theater within a fairly wide radius. It's got to be full, right? Like, they're only showing it in one theater. It's got to be full. It was not. It was not even close to full. There's probably 15 other people in the theater, mostly people about our age. There was one very elderly Asian couple, which was kind of cool. And they all had Horde shirts on, and I couldn't even talk to anybody because of that. I mean, we can't forget the crimes they've done against our people. So I didn't make any friends. There weren't that many people there. But, I mean, it was quiet. Nobody was kicking on my seat. I had a good, 3-seat radius in all directions, which is always good when you don't like touching people. So, yeah, I was disappointed that there weren't that many people there. But, yeah. Oh, the other thing was that my theater, this isn't very relative to the movie, but my theater apparently sells booze. So I was able to get, like, a really nice cider and take it into the theater with me. So I was mildly buzzed for my first watching the movie. That may or may not have influenced my opinion of it. But it was delicious. It was really good.
There you go.
Yeah. What about you?
Similar situation, actually. We were getting ready to go, and I was like, you know what? We were going to try and do dinner before the movie, and it was going to cut it close in terms of us getting there. So I was like, I'm going to buy my tickets ahead of time just in case, because, it's opening night, even though they had the Thursdays. We went Friday. That's technically opening night. And we're like, okay, I think it was 6:30 showing, so we're like, I'm going to buy tickets ahead. So I bought our tickets ahead of time, and they're, the theater that has reserved seating, so it's perfect. We knew we wouldn't have to fight for seats, everything else. So we ended up not going to dinner because traffic was so bad. We got to the movie 15 minutes beforehand. So we get there, we get in, and there's nobody there. 7 other people besides us. It starts to fill up, and it probably ended up being about maybe 30, 35 people. But yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. I mean, I've heard similar situations, and I've also heard there were packed theaters. So I don't know, but I've more heard that there were not that many people, and the numbers kind of show it. What is it? I think 31 million it made over.
Yeah,
the
it was a pretty underwhelming launch cash-wise. Yeah. I've been trying to think of why that is. I mean, obviously the critics were really, unfair in my opinion, but I may be biased.
Right.
The critics were really harsh on it from the pre-screenings. There was, all the professional reviews were really, really awful. And then we may, you and I and the kind of people that actually tune into the podcast, there's a slight itty-bitty possibility that we live in a weird Warcraft bubble where we see Warcraft news on Twitter and all our news sites are Warcraft-based, and we spend way too much time playing this game, and we look a little bit weird because we haven't seen the sun. And we're just a little bit insulated to what the overall world feel to this movie is. And maybe everybody wasn't as excited as we are. There's a possibility that not everybody's been waiting 10 years for this.
Well, yeah. There's no doubt about that. But, I mean, and this was the whole challenge the whole time about this movie. And I was really counting on Duncan Jones to be able to make a movie that was going to kind of cross the line from fandom into regular, moviegoer. And here's the frustration, I think, overall, even if he would have done a fantastic job with that, I mean, an amazing job, I don't know if things would have panned out here in the States anyway. It just... Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, Warcraft kind of has a reputation. Lord of the Rings is a fantasy thing, but everybody... It was kind of the cool fantasy thing, if that makes any sense. It wasn't that cool when it was originally a thing. I'm sure in, the 80s and the 70s and the 30s when you were around. Being a Lord of the Rings nerd was probably a pretty dorky thing, but by the time, the movies came out, it was it was the sexy fantasy. You've got the cool elves, you've got the weird elvish writing that people are learning how to write like weirdos, and you've got Orlando Bloom, and 11-year-old me thought he was sure pretty cool, and it's just this super cool thing. So I can kind of see how that became a phenomenon. But when people think Warcraft, if they've never played the games, they probably think of their socially awkward third cousin that never got a job or moved out, that talks about it way too much. They probably don't think of something really cool. A lot of people probably don't understand the magic behind it. They just have these negative associations that come from things like that, and that South Park episode that I never actually watched. Stuff like that. People have a pretty negative overall impression of Warcraft if you're not part of that sphere.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, there were some reviews or something. There's an article I saw someone linked about the nerds finally coming out of their mom's basements to go out to a movie and see Warcraft and that sort of thing. So there's all that still, which just boggles my mind that they want to perpetuate that sort of thing when geek culture and everything. You got like Big Bang Theory and everything else that is so predominant these days.
Yeah.
To still push those stupid, goofy stereotypes is kind of insane in my opinion. But I mean, moreover than just Warcraft in particular, as much as we can definitely pick on that because of other people's perceptions. It's an addictive game. Losers play it because they just suck their lives into it and all that stuff. It's a video game movie, which already has a kind of a stench to it because video game movies don't do well. They don't. There's not many I can't think of that are any good at all.
Yeah.
So I think it was that as much as anything. All I can say is thank God. Let's not forget that the Warcraft movie originally was supposed to open last year in December against Star Wars. So
yeah,
thank God they
would
moved
have gotten
that.
so good. Like,
So,
what's it competing against now? Obviously, they waited for this window. What is it actually
The
against right now, this
Conjuring
weekend?
2 beat it at the box office, which
I'm sorry, what?
I don't even know I don't know.
It sounds like either a horror movie or a Harry Potter knockoff.
To me, it just sounds like a magic, pull a rabbit out of my hat. Conjuring.
Oh.
Ta-da!
Oh, I thought you were going to say Magic the Gathering. Oh,
No.
man, what if they did a Magic the Gathering movie? That might actually do worse than
There's gonna
Warcraft.
be- yeah, who knows? Super Mario Brothers 2. But yeah, so there's that. I don't know. We'll see. The good thing is, and I know a lot of people like myself was a little bit frustrated how it opened like weeks ago, in other countries. But I think we now see why because I saw an article too that kind of pointed right to it. If a movie doesn't do well here, the overseas market kind of sours on it too because I mean obviously even though these like China like blew up for this movie, I think it's at 150 million right now. It's projected to go really high. That it's not that we're a big deal. It's just we have the loudest voice. Our media is all over the place. We're just this, especially since we made the movie. If we sour on it, then yeah, it seems to hold a lot of weight with the rest of the world. So that's why they rolled it out the way they did, and thank God they did, frankly, because if they keep making money elsewhere, if China keeps going in particular, maybe we can get some sequels. So.
I heard another theory that the reason that Europe got it a couple weeks early is that there's some kind of big sports ball thing going on right now, and apparently that's very hard to compete with in Europe, so they actually had to bump it up in order to avoid that. I don't know how true that is.
I heard, yeah, that's true. I did hear mention of that too, but yeah, I don't know. That doesn't sound, but I don't understand all that, so.
Yeah, I think sports ball is a little beyond us.
Well, I like my sports. Don't get me wrong. I grew up in a sports town, but like the way Europe can get obsessed about the World Cup and stuff like that, I don't. I don't get that. But still, anyway, what was there was something I was going to say and it's completely gone now.
Sorry, we were talking about worldwide performance of the movie. You're talking about how China really liked it. Hopefully they can carry us at least to the point where we can get like a director's cut or some sequels or
Right.
Like a theme park in America as opposed to just the knockoff in China. That'd be cool.
Yeah, there you go. No, actually, I was thinking personally, I would feel it to be a shame if we went and got sequels that were like direct to video and stuff like that.
Oh God.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think that.
I know, but I mean, as long as they're done well, I guess I wouldn't mind. But here's the thing, and I was thinking about this yesterday. Thank God for places like Netflix. That we may get a decent. I mean, Netflix has a good reputation. They've done quality stuff. Maybe that could be a good place for Warcraft.
Netflix for Warcraft, yeah.
Something, yeah.
Or failing that, they just give Novel $250,000 and he'll just machinimate them all. Done.
No.
What do you mean it doesn't work like that?
It doesn't work like that at all. Heck, we do that stuff for free anyway. Well, some of us do. I guess he's probably making some good money these days, but still, yeah, no, it's neat now to think about how many options we have for that sort of thing. I keep thinking to myself every once in a while, if like Firefly would have just actually come out and failed on Fox just a few years later, maybe we could have it back. But
For sure.
yeah, so there are other avenues, so let's hope.
Well, let's talk about the actual movie. So the first thing that I want to go over is one of the big criticisms a lot of people had was the pacing of the movie, particularly in the first half of the movie, in terms of introducing different characters, different locations, things like that. So how was your thought on how the movie was paced? Did it feel rushed to you?
I actually felt it was plotting, and I don't mean like in terms of the kind of speed in which things were happening. I felt like some of the edits that they chose, some of the cuts that they chose were a little bit disconcerting. There was one I can't remember early on where they were setting up the humans and everything else, and then they cut to the orcs for like, I think it was the scene where they were just looking at Westfall or whatever else, and it just like was like, I don't know, 30 seconds long or something. All of a sudden they cut back to the humans again. I'm like, well, that felt like an orc commercial was stuck in. It was a little strange. So I don't know. I wonder how much. I mean, they've said that there's a lot of extra footage that they can make a director's cut. I wonder there was just so much footage that some of it they didn't feel like they could lose, so it maybe got shoehorned in some places. But
I feel like they probably dropped a bunch of character building from the first half because they set up the characters, they show us who they are and how they're related to each other, but there's really not a lot of material beyond that before they have to get them into what they're doing, because there is quite a few different plot points throughout this movie, and that was the part that felt a little rushed to me. And then the other thing was the only thing that was really made me uncomfortable, or not uncomfortable, but just kind of felt odd to me in the beginning, was when they were like, okay, we gotta go talk to the king.
Oh wait,
let's go meet him in Goldshire. King loves going to Goldshire.
Right. One thing we should really mention.
Oh yeah, full spoilers, by the way.
Full disclosure. We didn't talk about this. We're not.
If you haven't seen the movie yet, just get it.
Luckily, we haven't gotten there yet. But yeah, we're not going to hold back in talking about
spoiler
everything.
alert: the king goes to Goldshire.
We figure it's Monday. You're listening to
a night elf. It's a big scandal.
You're listening to a WoW podcast. You've probably seen the movie. If not, then just wait.
I mean, she's dancing on a mailbox. You all know how that goes.
I don't know how we ever get through a show. Okay, so.
So yeah, the thing where they were like, okay, we gotta go see the king. All right, you tell him we're gonna meet him in Goldshire. That felt very strange, and it felt like they did that just because they wanted to name drop Goldshire for the fans, and that was a little bit odd, especially considering some of the other things were kind of inconsistent from their fans. Like, and maybe I'm just misunderstanding, but the geography. So they invade from the Black Morass, right? Which is like Swamp of Sora's Blasted Lands area. Right. It's east of Stormwind, right? A little southeast. How the hell did they get to Westfall?
I kind of wondered that too. It seemed a little strange, even when I saw it in the trailers. Because I mean, I didn't know it was Westfall, but it had to be. I was kind of like, how? Why? I
feel like, and it would have made sense if they'd also shown some kind of destruction in some place in between there. You can kind of get the sense that they're surrounding the city, but they really just had that, like the east, and then some random orcs chilling in Westfall.
Right.
So I think that might be just another case of they really wanted to do this shot. They wanted to frame this with like the farms and whatever else in Westfall. Right. And at the end of the cut, they weren't too fussed with how it actually got there because they figured nobody would care.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's what I'm wondering. There may be some kind of connecting bits of film that we don't know about. I don't know.
But how important those bits actually are is kind of debatable. I mean, I should throw at the very beginning of our talk here is I love this movie. I understand a lot of the criticisms people have with it, but I loved it. I would see it again. I would love to see it more times. I'm probably gonna get it on some form of media or digital download just so I can show it to my cat because I felt really bad I had to leave her behind.
No.
Not that I ever take my cat anywhere, but she every week when we watch Game of Thrones, she sits in the couch next to me and she holds onto my arm with both of her paws and she watches it with me. So I feel like I have to share this movie.
That's almost animal abuse, isn't it? Making her watch all. It's like Red Wedding now.
No, she comes on her own. Sometimes she shoves her face in my arm. But I think it's more that she's sleepy than she's scared. But maybe she's scared.
See, that's what scares me. Because you seem like a very calm person for the most part. But then you like...
Oh, God, you don't know me at all.
I'm glad. I'm really happy with that right now. You and your cat have a simpatico thing going on. It makes me a little nervous. But, yeah. For me, I enjoyed it. I mean, I as a fan... I really loved it because it was finally the world that I love up on the big screen, and I got to see all the things that pretty much everything I ever wanted. But I can definitely see for people that weren't fans that would be a little bit lost and not totally sure about things. So that's my only thing. I really hoped it would kind of translate. But I don't want to get into details. I don't want to skip too far ahead. But it's
hard to gauge as a fan how much of it is lost on non-fans. Like there was a lot of information that was kind of fan servicey. Like obviously the Murloc, a lot of place names. Some of the little clips of characters that become major characters later in stories that we're more familiar with.
Right.
but they were never central to the story. There was never a plot point that hinged on you understanding what that thing was about. And I don't know how weird those various bits of it would be to someone that didn't understand the context. The one that I can think of specifically, fairly late in the movie, again, full spoilers, but there's a scene with the king's family, and they're talking to his youngest son, Varian, who's like, 2 inches tall. And obviously we as Warcraft players know that that's the guy who's, in Stormwind right now with a badass ponytail. So we have full context into who this person is. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that particular scene may have lingered a little bit long on those people for no reason if you don't understand that. Like, I don't know how heartstring tugging that was for people that don't remember those characters from other franchises. Mm-hmm. But maybe it was still really emotional. I have no idea.
Yeah, one thing for me that I won't get into details, but one thing for me personally is I remember one of the big things about Duncan Jones taking this movie on was that he wanted to show both sides of the battle. He wanted to really get some real humanity and sympathy for the orcs as well as the humans, because it's easy for us to relate to the humans. I don't know if that worked. I don't know if I still, at the end of the day, I felt like even though there was a few orcs that were rebelling, that it still felt like a pro-alliance, these guys are monsters.
There was nothing really, you can't just show me a baby.
Right.
And then be like, you have to be sympathetic to these people. They have a baby. I don't even like babies. It doesn't work like that. And then the person obviously that we're supposed to feel the most sympathy for, Durotan, he's got like the eyebrows, he's got the soothing calm voice, he's got the pregnant wife who's like really funny. Like, we're supposed to feel for him and his struggle, and of course he's trying to do the best thing for his people.
Right.
But he's also a filthy goddamn hypocrite.
Whoa.
Like, all right, so the beginning of the movie is like, okay, we gotta find a new place for our people, this one's done. And he's like, oh, look at all these Draenei, they're about to die. That's a shame. I'm gonna go through this portal anyways. Sucks to be them. And then he gets through and he's like, oh no, this is wrong. We can't let this happen. We gotta overthrow Gul'dan after he gets what he wants by getting off of the dying homeworld. Like, he's totally down with the Fel until he can afford to not be. And that feels very hypocritical of him. Whereas a lot of the human characters didn't really get any grayness in their actions.
Yeah, see, I think you hit on an interesting point that I didn't really think about before. It does seem like, it's just like they're like, hey, let's just go to this other world kind of thing. You don't really feel like there's this oppression, like Gul'dan's really got them under his thumb kind of a thing, and then they decide to rebel. To me, I think what the point was is they get over there, and then they're just like, wait, we really should rethink this. Maybe we can, even though he's been this guy, maybe we could, get him out of power.
Yeah. It's like they get in the new world and they're like, hey, everything this guy touches dies. Maybe we should overthrow him. The moment for that was like 500 years ago or whenever the hell he started burning up your old planet.
Right.
Jeez.
Yeah, and I don't think that, I guess, I really, in a way, I kind of wish the movie would have started like 15 minutes before so we could have, we talk about being rushed. It does feel like they're just like, hey, our world's dying, let's go. And it's like, whoa, I would like to have seen some build up, some like, ways he was oppressing them and everything and putting them in this situation before that. Yeah, I get that. That makes sense, and that certainly does talk to, like you were saying, it was kind of rushed at the beginning.
Yeah, so. But I'm also viewing all of this from a very biased pro-alliance lens, so I'm always eager to jump on anything that makes orcs look like filthy.
Yeah, I know. That's fine. And that's what frustrated me, because one of the reasons I love Warcraft is because there are two sides of the story. There are bad guys and good guys on both sides. And I was really looking forward to the fact that was what Sam Raimi, the original director, didn't get. He wanted to make the orcs the bad guys, just like in Lord of the Rings. And that was a big thing that Blizzard kind of disagreed with him on. And then Duncan Jones was all more, you hear him in every interview talking about how he wants to portray that, and I was really looking forward to that, and I don't think it came across.
Mm-hmm. I think it would have been a much better movie if they had achieved a little bit harder on making the orcs more sympathetic and relatable characters and given the humans some gray areas so that we could actually kind of understand why these people are at war, aside from, hey, we need your stuff, give it.
Right.
And the one character that I think they really tried, that I think they had a lot of opportunities to build on that with, but kind of missed out on, was Garona. You know, she's been a prisoner, so obviously she's not going to be too happy with the Horde, but they're her people.
Right.
And she gets on the New World, and she pretty much pieces the hell out. Like, she doesn't seem to be very conflicted about that. I mean, she has that one moment, she was like, hey, can I come back later? Yeah. I mean, you're pretty cool. And then he's like, no. And she's like, oh. And it's like the end of that.
Right.
I mean, she doesn't even, she's like, ooh, these people, they got blankets, they got soup, this is the bomb. And she's pretty much converted. I mean, if that doesn't show you how nice the Alliance is relative to the Horde, I don't know what's gonna.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that leads us into, I mean, I don't know exactly where you're at in terms of what you have, you know, your schedule for the movie talk, but I think we should get into the performances from that point.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think that's a good place to start, because as good as I think Paula Patton was, sometimes it felt bland. It felt, I don't know, she kind of...
Specifically the Garona performance?
Yeah, I kind of felt like sometimes she was just kind of... I don't know. I didn't get the orcish side of her as much as I would have liked. She felt very human most of the time. She just happened to have big teeth.
Yeah. I went into it expecting to be disappointed with her performance, because that was one thing that was kind of a common note across a lot of the reviews that I had sort of seen snippets of, was that a lot of people were really unhappy with her performance. And I saw it, and I was actually really pleasantly surprised. I thought she did great. I think you're right in that she wasn't terribly orky, but I think a lot of that can be laid on the writing instead of specifically her performance. I found all of her emotion came through really well.
True.
I think she delivered her lines really, really well. The one thing I would have enjoyed is if she had done a bit of an accent. I understand that can be kind of difficult, but she felt very... I feel like an accent would have really helped out, but I guess they didn't really do much of one for Dorotan either, so I don't really know.
Yeah.
And then another thing, which, again, more writing than acting specifically, but in the beginning, she's like, hey... I learned how to speak English from these captives since we've come through the portal. I'm like, how long have you been here? And she's speaking broken sentences, and then about 45 seconds later, she's speaking fluent English.
Right.
And that, I mean, I understand why they had to do that. It would have been really awkward to have her zug-zugging for the whole thing. But it just felt a little bit awkward to me.
Okay. All right, so I'm curious. If you had to pick a performance, I don't want to say that was the worst, but was the weakest. Who would you... point to?
Lothar's kid.
What?
Yeah, he was weird.
Oh, okay. You think so?
Yeah. Which is understandable, because it's a smaller part. I mean, he's a younger actor, and he didn't really have much to work off of, but he was just kind of, I'm gonna be strong for my father, for the Alliance, right? Yeah, for the Alliance. Rah! And he didn't click for me at all.
See, for me, I think that played to his character, is how awkward he was.
I guess 15-year-olds are pretty awkward.
That's how I took that. Honestly, my frustration was I had a weird, and I don't know if I'd say it was the weakest, but I had a weird feeling with Anduin. His performance seemed a little kind of, I don't know. Sometimes it felt all right. Sometimes he just...
Have you seen any Vikings?
No, I read or listened to another podcast that said he was very much doing his character from Vikings a little bit, but I've never watched it, so...
I've only seen bits of it, but it did seem like he was kind of doing the same character within this universe. I kind of thought it worked. I thought he had a very roguish charm, but he didn't really strike me as being very heroic.
Right.
And then one other thing I think the movie could have done a better job of setting up is why he's so important. Like, I understand that he's the Queen's brother.
Right.
But he seems to have this weird pseudo title of just like the guy.
Yep.
And that's never really explained. Like, they never say, hey, this is the commander, or hey, this is the royal advisor, or hey, this guy's just a badass. They just
kind of there.
He's just kind of a main character for no apparent reason. That's a little bit strange.
Yeah, the one thing I kind of tired of is like that head cocking thing he kept doing every time he was about to.
I thought that was cute.
Oh, hammy.
Anyways, in terms of performances, somebody in chat's actually making a really good point that a lot of people that didn't like the human cast disliked different actors of it. I've heard people hating on King Lane. I've heard people that didn't like Khadgar. And I can kind of see where people are coming from, but I think that the specific awkwardnesses of both of those particular characters was kind of part of the character. Like, Khadgar is supposed to be a total dork. Nobody's really supposed to like him very much.
Right.
He's just kind of awkward and goofy, and he's really the Samwell Tarly of this movie. He's the person you're supposed to relate to as an awkward, goofy people that people don't like very much. I mean, that's us, right? So we're kind of supposed to put ourselves into Khadgar a little bit.
Right.
And that's where that weird, newbiness comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas King Lane, he's supposed to be this kind of austere, awkward ruler that doesn't really relate well. Maybe he's not. Maybe he just butchered it, and that's how it came across to me. But I kind of bought it. I kind of bought that he's a king that doesn't see. He has a hard time. He's just trying to do his best for his kingdom, but he's having a hard time seeing eye to eye with all the people that are conflicting with him. Because we have that scene at the throne room where everybody's looking out for their own people. They're all fighting. Nobody can agree on what to do, and he seems like somebody who's been very much worn down by that conflict.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I didn't have a problem with him for the most part because I felt like he was kind of a king that was more out of touch. He had people that did that stuff, and I don't know, never really been in quite the situation. Obviously, a portal's opening and green monsters are coming out. That's kind of disconcerting for anyone. But I like Khadgar. You know, I can see where people might have an issue with his performance to a degree, but I thought his character arc, in terms of the way it was written, was really well done, and he performed it really well in terms of kind of, I don't want to say coming of age, because it sounds corny, but I mean, I really thought he did a good job at transitioning from somebody who really had no idea what he was doing to somebody that had to do something to deal, especially with Medivh and everything and their relationship and everything else. I thought him and Medivh in particular were the strong points for them, from me personally, in terms of the movie. But I don't know. King Lane,
I love Medivh.
The funny thing about King Lane is, I don't know how many people have made mention of this. Every time I saw him, I was just like, that's Howard Stark.
Who? Howard?
Yeah.
Stark.
Tony Stark's dad from the Marvel movies.
Oh.
It's the same actor, and every time all I could see was just like, why don't you just invent something that'll?
I'm thinking we got Ned, we got Benjen. Who's Howard?
Yep, Howard Stark is Tony Stark's dad.
Oh.
So that's all I saw every time I saw him personally. But anyway, no, I thought they did a good job. I was really happy with the orc performances. I thought the motion capture was really well done, and I thought the actors did a good job at bringing orcs to.
Yeah, they looked really good.
Yeah.
Nothing really jumped out as being out of place.
No, I didn't.
A lot of people from watching the trailers were kind of criticizing these humans look really dumb next to these giant beefy orcs. And that might be a little bit true just because anybody that's seen a Warcraft trailer, specifically the MOP one that has an orc and a human in it, actual human beings don't look very much like Warcraft humans, so it's a little bit weird to have untouched human actors in the human roles. But nothing really took me out of the movie in a way that, like, it all kind of fit well within that universe.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I want to transition into the special effects. We're getting to
So the thing that kind of leads into for me is the costumes and the sets.
Okay.
Specifically the costumes. What did you think?
I thought they were fine. I mean, for me as a fan of the game, they fit very well, while being somewhat like an homage to the game, being like shoulders are a little bit larger than usual, that sort of thing, without being too outrageous. I thought was perfect. But I could see how somebody coming into it is going like, these things are just kind of a little bit more out there. Yeah. And somebody I read somewhere said it was just like, the kids got into the costume, cabinet or whatever else and just put on a play. And I'm like, I don't think it's that bad.
I think because we've been so exposed to that Warcraft design of armor and they were so true to that it didn't really stick out to us, but I can see how it would look a little bit weird to other people. I had this moment when I was looking at the orcs and pregnant Draka takes off her belt that was previously covering her entire pregnant belly, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's about right.
Yep.
that's about how that works.
Draka's girdle.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like the huge belt, the big shoulder pads, those all made a lot of sense to me. And the same thing with like the colors, everything being very bright, very shiny. That's a very Warcraft, very Blizzard thing to me, but I can see how it would come across as cheesy to somebody that's not familiar with the universe. We're so used to these gritty, dark, realistic action fantasy movies lately that having something, kind of colorful and almost cartoonish like this while still being live action, I can see how that would be a little bit weird for people.
Right, and that's what I think was what I was getting from some of the other stuff I was listening to. But I thought it worked. I thought the whole world and the costumes and the just the environments, it all worked with being not only like I said, kind of almost like an homage to the game, but its own thing too, which was nice.
Yeah, it definitely felt like its own kind of marketable universe. I expect to see some merch coming out of it. I'm sure there's already some already.
Yep.
The one thing, and this is probably my least favorite thing about the movie, there's a scene in the castle, like that conference scene that I was talking about earlier where everybody's fighting, and there's some high elves there.
Yep.
And I get why they're high elves and not night elves. That doesn't bother me at all. but there was a female high elf with a top that had some serious boobage going on.
Oh.
And while I understand that's kind of true to the to how a lot of elf armor is done in the game, it felt very much like cosplay to me. It looked very much like one of those cosplay touched up photos that you see on the internet that's being passed around a little bit too much. And that really took me out. I was like, are you BlizzCon? Are you getting upvoted a little bit too much in the costume contest? Because you have some very nice assets there. I mean, they were nice, but
I missed her.
In the actual game, you don't see them jiggle quite like that.
Okay, well, I totally missed that completely.
Yeah.
No, but I would say there were moments every once in a while where I felt a little weird about Corona's kind of two-top, kind of not bikini type outfit, but I mean, it was, I don't know. At some point, I would have thought that they would have changed costume on her or something.
They
but
did.
It is, that's true. They gave her the armor.
They had a scene where they put some armor.
They gave her the Alliance armor. That's true, but but
and then she wears that for the rest of the movie.
Right. It just, I don't know. It just seemed to be one of those things where it seemed like an example of what people complain about in video games and stuff like that. I'm like, and there's some shots that just lingered a little bit too long on her. But it is what it is. So
it is what it is. And I do have to say that I think my favorite, the thing that really made me fall in love with the movie was how well they visually presented everything and how well it all kind of came together into this really believable world. It was kind of like that thing that people were talking about after they watched Avatar, where people got like seriously depressed because they realized Avatar wasn't real. I had a little bit of that. I mean, to a slightly less crazy extent, but I had a little bit of that feeling after watching the Warcraft movie. It's like, wow, they really made it come to life, and it's a little bit sad that the closest thing I can do right now is go log into my garrison and send Garona out to get me some gold. That's
Yep. No, I agree, and a lot of people are making mention of how good the magic in particular looked through the movie, and I thought they did a really good job with that as well. Not just for their own purposes, but they did have some homages to the game. I'm pretty sure at one point Khadgar did arcane missiles. It was like subtle, but it was there. So I thought they did. I mean, just seeing the way they did with the Fel, the way Gul'dan dealt with taking life. I mean, they didn't hold back in terms of some of the gruesome gore stuff too. I was really kind of surprised. There was a few moments where I was like, "Whoa, that was a little bit worse than I thought it would be." But
I'm glad they really went ham on violence. Like that was important to me. Warcraft is not. It's kind of gory sometimes. You just gotta play warrior and pop recklessness and turn on all your gore effects. That's it.
Well, the story itself, let's face it, it's how war, is in the Warcraft. I mean, it really is a tragedy. All these things that happen set up everything else, so they couldn't hold back, and I'm glad that they didn't do that at all. So, but yeah, just seeing a giant dark portal and everything else was just, that's definitely where I was geeking out, because that's where, I mean, as much as I played 6 months of vanilla, that Dark Portal, Burning Crusade, was when I really fell in love with the game, so it was pretty sweet.
Yeah, so what did you think about how they handled the story?
I think they did fine with it, I mean, overall, because, I mean, you can't... A lot of people's criticisms a lot of times are sort of lore changes and things like that, but it's a different medium. You have to do things a little bit differently for that audience. It's always going to be that way. Books and movies of the same come from the books are always going to be different. You can't get around it. So I kind of accept those kind of things for what they are, and I thought they did. Again, I thought there's some editing and pacing problems from time to time, but overall, especially I think the last 45 minutes in particular, I thought got really good. That's when I was really into it. So I think they did a good job.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I went into it not knowing too much about the story. I'm one of the people, and I think there's probably a lot of us, that didn't play all the way through any of the first Warcraft games. My first exposure to Warcraft was with World of Warcraft, a little bit later than Middle as well. So I wasn't as familiar with all of these old... Like with this original story, like the only characters I was really familiar with were the ones that I knew from current WoW. I did a tiny bit of research so I'd have a basic idea of what was going on, but I don't think that was really necessary. And I'm the same way as you. Like I am a major slight tangent, but I'm a major Game of Thrones fan, and I'm even more majorly a fan of the Song of Ice and Fire books that they're based on. And as somebody that keeps up with both, there's a certain point where you have to accept that there are two sets of canons, and the fact that they are different doesn't make either one less valid.
Right.
It doesn't mean the movie is wrong. It doesn't mean the books are wrong. It doesn't mean the game is wrong. It just means that there are different storylines. You can think of them in your head as alternate universes if you want. We've got enough time travel crap in this universe that you can get away with that.
That's true.
So you just kind of have to accept that they're their own thing, and you just have to look at it kind of in a bubble. And it's a little bit sad that they can't have this crazy continuity that doesn't have any hitches in between the different things. And some of the changes seemed a little bit unnecessary. I was a little bit weirded out that they made Dalaran a floating city, because that seems like something that might come up later. Like, the whole thing that gets Dalaran in the air is kind of a big deal, so it's a little strange to me that they just kind of skipped right past that. But I guess they wanted to show it as this big magic city. It had to be extra magic, and there's nothing more magic than just sticking it in the sky for no reason, so, yeah.
You and my girlfriend are probably now best friends, because that was her huge gripe about the movie. Of all the things, that was the one thing she couldn't get past.
Yeah.
And I get it. I get it, but I mean, I don't know. I've seen enough translation. I mean, one of the big things when it came to books to movies and stuff like that for me was Jurassic Park, because the book was fantastic. But if you made
there were Jurassic Park books?
Yes, they start out. Michael Crichton wrote the book before it became a movie. It was a book. And it's great because he takes science fiction to a whole level. He like the science, real life science that could actually happen, and then he takes it and it blows it up. And I mean, but if you did that book verbatim for what it was, it would have been 8 hours long and cost $1 billion. It wouldn't be possible. So you have to make these sacrifices. So I get it. I've never had a problem with those things. It's like to me when somebody's like they make a cover of an old song or a remix of an old song, and people are like, "Oh my god, I hate it! It ruins the old song for me." Why? They're separate things. Ignore the one you don't like. It's
exactly
okay.
Yeah.
It's something for everybody. It'll be all right.
So were there any parts of the movie, story-wise, either as it relates to the original story or just on its own, that really bothered you or you thought were weird or inconsistent?
Not that really bothered me. I thought they did a good job with a lot of that, actually. The stuff that I was worried about, the minutia, I think that I love in terms of WoW, like the stuff in Karazhan, I thought they did a really good job with. I don't know. Overall, I think they did a decent job with all of that, I think. Mm-hmm. I can't
Something that stood out to me at the very, very end of the movie, you're at the funeral, and everybody's just kind of upset, and they need a leader, apparently.
Right.
And apparently they have to decide right then, because that's a thing. And then, Lothar is like, hey, I'm going to grab this sword. Right. Follow me! And it just seems very out of place. Like, you'd think there would have been, like, a council or a coronation or something other than, grave robbing in front of a funeral of people and then just, like, deciding that you're the best person for the job. Yeah, that felt a little bit strange to me, especially because we were told that he's the queen's brother one time.
Right.
And like in actual monarch rules, he's not necessarily the default regent. Like, obviously the the king has living children, right. So once they're of age they can rule. So somebody just has to hold down the fort for a while, and that can be anybody. And he's just been kind of the guy. So it's just weird. That's about a little bit strange to me. Like, I understand why people would want to follow him, and he's kind of the best person for the job. But having that moment at the funeral didn't really hit the chord I think it was going for with me, because I was like, wait, what? You can't do that. Right. Put that back down. It's disrespectful.
Right. No, I actually, when you put it like that, it does make sense. I guess for me, I just saw it coming, and I knew, and I kind of disregarded it because it's just like, okay, this is just how the movie has to end. But yeah, when you really look at it, it is a little bit awkward, and I don't know. I mean, I guess, like you said, he was just kind of the guy. Why not? Why not him?
He did everything else in this movie.
That's right. He was supposed to be. The way he was all, kind of charming and cocky at the beginning of the movie. Of course, he's going to be that guy.
Question for you.
Yeah. What
did you think was the funniest moment in the movie?
Funniest? Well, total geek moment, of course, is going to be the sheep for me. I don't know. I think I heard them talk about doing that, but for some reason it kind of left my brain, and I didn't think about it. So when it happened,
I didn't really think it was going to happen when I heard that as well, and I was like, that's going to look so dumb.
Right.
It's going to look so dumb to have somebody sheep somebody on a movie, but it was wonderful.
The way they did it, because you didn't see him, he was off screen, and all of a sudden he shows up. It's like, yeah, no, it was well done. I'd say that, and I really liked Ogrim's. Was it the what do they call it? The vertical headbutt. he grabs one of the other orcs that I think he was rescuing Duratan at that point. He grabs one of the other orcs, puts him like straight up in the air, and then pulls him down and does a headbutt straight onto his head. It was something they talked about, I think even at BlizzCon, how that was like the only time you'll ever see the vertical headbutt. They may have even invented it. And I was just like, that was pretty cool.
No, it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
I particularly enjoyed when Garona and Lothar and Khadgar were camping. And Garona's like, he wants to sleep with me. That whole section. Yes. I know I would probably felt out of place for some people, but I was giggling through the whole thing. I thought that was so well done.
Yeah, no, I thought it was well. I think it could have been bad.
Yeah.
But the way she was just like, he wants to lay with me, and he was like,
yeah.
It really. I think
the shots of Travis Fimmel just giggling over his chicken was really.
That was good, and I think, like I said, the way she's just like, he wants to lie with me. I think that as much as just. The situation itself was.
Khadgar looks at him. He's like, no.
Wait, no. What are you? No, what? Where'd that come from? Yeah. No, you're right. That was good.
I'm glad that they were able to have kind of these light moments in the movie like that without completely sacrificing the whole tone of it, and also without having them be really, really dumb. So I was glad that there were some good parts. They all the jokes got laughs in my theater. Of the 15 people that were there.
By the way, I have to say, in terms of the sheep does have a name. The sheep's actual name off stage is actually called One Take Charlie, because he's just so good. He gets his job done right the first take every time.
He was a good sheep.
He was a very good sheep. Did a good job. And in terms of actors, because when wondering, Elodie, I knew that had to be Glenn Close. I knew it. I mean, I saw it in the trailer like a month ago, and I asked online. Nobody gave me any kind of answers. So then I looked at IMDb, and they had her listed there as uncredited. And I was like, I haven't heard anything else except for IMDb. I haven't seen anything officially. It says, this is Glenn Close. So I actually tweeted Duncan Jones yesterday. I was like, can we get some? I was like, it'd be nice if we had some actual official confirmation that is Glenn Close.
Yeah.
And Duncan Jones responded back to me, and he said, it is. I was pretty shocked. I was like, sweet. You can't get much more official than that. So that was pretty sweet that an actress of her stature, popped into the Warcraft movie.
Yeah. A lot of people were really upset that Elodie was female. That seems like a weird thing to get mad about to me. Like, it doesn't affect anything, really. No,
but
people... I'm not familiar enough with that part of the lore. I was actually a little bit confused for that part of the movie. Like, I kind of got where they ended up. I wasn't completely sure how they got there, but I was also quite deep in my cider at that point, so...
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't get too hung up on that stuff. As long as the greater good of the movie itself is served, I don't nitpick. I try
and it didn't feel like they were changing it for, like, political reasons. It just felt like they thought that was going to fit with their scene, and I think it did.
No. And that's one thing, like, political reasons. Like, I get frustrated that I cannot say that I am not looking forward to the new Ghostbusters movie, because automatically it's because I hate women. And I'm sorry. That's not why. It's because the trailer looked awful. Sorry. So there's that whole thing.
Let's leave that alone for
now.
I
know. I had to throw that in there.
All right, so what else? Miscellaneous stuff about the movie. I feel like we went into a lot of it.
Well, I mean,
Is there anything else you want to say about it?
Well, let's talk about the music, because obviously we've got the music from the game and everything else. You had a couple of moments, Stormwind's introduction. I was very happy that they brought the music back for that. I wasn't sure if they would, and they did. That was really the only place in the movie that they did. But what was nice was the credit sequence has
that was the other thing I was going to say. Yeah,
right.
I had such feelings leaving the theater.
Yes, me too. And I was actually really disappointed, because I was like all excited. I look over at my girlfriend, and she's like, I play without the music on. I didn't know. I know. I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
I have friends like that too. I don't understand.
I don't either.
Actually, I understand. I get it, but I go through phases. If I'm leveling, and I'm leveling something for the first time, I'm absolutely going to turn on my music and go through those zones and experience it on that particular character. But if I'm leveling, my 7th druid because I need another one for a certain rating bracket, then I'll probably turn on some Pandora. But to never play with the game music, it's so good though, especially like since Mop. I think Mop is where they really, really started nailing it on the in-game music.
Yeah, I think they did here and there, but I think, I would say Pandaria maybe more consistently than ever. I don't think there's a bad track on that soundtrack at all. I mean, when you think back to the original Vanilla soundtrack where it was done all like on synthesizer, they've come so far. And the Legion soundtrack's not like disappointing me at all. It's really fantastic. So, but yeah, when that music came up, I was really happy that they did that. But let's shout out to I can't even think of the guy's name. But the guy that did
it's kind of an important part of a shout out.
It is, but and I do know his.
Shout out to that one guy.
Well, no, here's the thing. I know his name, but I don't know how to pronounce it, and I don't want to butcher it. That's really the big thing. But he did the original Iron Man soundtrack, was the thing that I always kind of knew him from, and then of course he's actually done the music for Game of Thrones this whole time. He did the theme.
Well, now I want to know what his name is.
All right, look it up.
Can you type it?
No, I don't have
it.
All right,
Iron Man soundtrack. I'm gonna take a stab at this. How hard can it be to say? Iron Man soundtrack.
Okay.
Song guy.
Song guy. But
didn't help me.
I was very happy. I was worried because I was gonna have this kind of resentment that they didn't use the game music. But I have to say, after the movie, I was humming some of that music.
Yeah, I'm never gonna be able to say that.
Yes. Thank you. Now you feel my pain. It's not that I don't want to say it, and I don't want to give him props, but that's why I'm talking about him, because he did do a good job, and I was very concerned about that part, because I'm very partial to my Warcraft music. It's, in my mind, if you talk about WoW and everything else, there's two things that are always consistently good: the art direction and the music. You can never say anything bad about those. Where they may go wrong elsewhere, they don't go wrong with those two things. So.
I don't know. The Cataclysm loading screen music, the Shattering, I think objectively it's a good song. As loading screen music that used to sit on my desktop, it was very anxiety-inducing. It was too, and I understand the Cataclysm is supposed to be kind of an anxiety-inducing event, like it's kind of bad.
Right.
But it shook my soul, and that's great when you listen to it the first time. But I must have heard that song, 1,500 times. My soul's got some chips missing off the edges of it at this point.
That's okay. I mean, if you really go back and listen, one of the reasons I absolutely love that track in particular, we're getting away from the movie a little bit, but that's okay. One of the reasons I love that track is because it actually is a real good, and I'm trying to think of the word for it now. It has bits of different parts of the story into it. There's a whole there's the dwarves music, and it's just kind of a good amalgamation of the entire soundtrack in like an 11-minute kind of span, and they hadn't quite done that before. And since we were coming back to Azeroth, we weren't going off to another like island or something. I thought it was really neat to have the shattering, but also all this coming together of all this music and kind of new versions of old music and stuff. I thought they did a good job with that one. Even though Cataclysm is not my favorite expansion, I really like that.
You just made me realize all of the expansions except for Cata were islands.
Yes.
Outland's a big island, and then it's a space island. Northrend's a giant island. Pandaria is obviously an island.
Yes.
We're going to the Broken Islands.
That's one of the reasons why I was really excited.
I guess that's the only thing they can do.
That's why I was really excited with Cataclysm, because it gets a lot of hate, but for them to have done what they did to come back to the world and then add on to it, and not in a really awkward way, like Oldham felt right, stuff like that.
Mount Hyjal really fit into the world. Yeah. It's not like they had to scooch stuff around.
Well,
there's still one zone, I mean, again, kind of away from the movie, but there's one zone near Silithus, right? There's a spot on the map they haven't really made much use of yet. Is that just Encourage?
It could be. I know it has its own kind of map.
I swear there's a place that's on the map that you can't go to.
That's I don't know. I'd have to look at it. But I remember the funny thing is, back in, it must have been vanilla. I don't think it was BC. I wandered, it was winter, spring, and then there was a little area outside of it that was kind of with demons and stuff like that. I can't remember the name of it, but I wandered back there, and there was a cave that if you went far enough back, there was a portal that was for Mount Hyjal, and actually had a gate in front of it, so you couldn't get to it. But it was a placeholder for where Mount Hyjal would be. Of course, I had no idea anything about Hyjal or anything else. And it does, of course, they took out that demon-infested area, and that's where Hyjal now exists. So it's pretty cool that I saw it way back then, and then it didn't come out till Cataclysm.
Yeah.
So, anywho, to wrap up, in terms of
final thoughts on the movie,
what would you give it on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh man, I hate giving stuff grades.
That's why I wanted to do it.
I'm gonna go with an 8.5. I would say points off would be just because it's not, like, I can objectively say it's not the best movie ever, but I would say it is a very good movie. It's definitely worth seeing. One thing that is leaving my head as I try and spit it out. Oh my gosh, what was it? It was an overarching tie-in thought about the whole thing. Darn it, you're gonna have to go. It's gonna come back to you.
Okay. See, I get really kind of conflicted about giving it a rating myself because my initial rating would probably be like a 7, and that's only because I can see where it doesn't really work for non-fans. And so as just like the moviegoer guy in me, I would make it a 7, but as the fanboy game player, I would probably give it like an 8, maybe an 8.5.
That actually brings back the thing I was going to say. So, something that was really interesting to me about the way people perceive this movie is a lot of people watch it and say, hey, I'm not enough of a Warcraft fan to enjoy this. If you're not a Warcraft fan, you're not going to get it. And then other people said, if you're a real Warcraft fan, you're not going to like this. It's for the non-fans. So you have these two factions of people, and then people in the middle that think it's for either them or people on either side. Everybody seems to think it's not for them. Aside from me, I thought it was made specifically for me. But it was very interesting to me how people thought it was both too hardcore and not hardcore enough. And that was just kind of funny.
Right. Well, here's one thing I would definitely want to end with myself personally. In the years and years it's taken to make this movie, the balance of trying to make it commercial but also work for the fans had to been, I mean, and plus going through directors and script after script, I'm sure. I'm going to give complete props to everybody that worked on this film and gutted it out, especially the ones that have been there. I mean, Chris Metzen probably was pulling his hair out at some point, trying to deal with Sam Raimi's ideas and trying to making those compromises between what they wanted and what Hollywood wanted and everything else. Duncan Jones for jumping in, and frankly, as much as I wanted it to be more of a movie that would appeal to everyone, I love the man for making it something that us fans loved, for bringing the world that we love to the big screen like that, you know. So I just want to say big props to everybody that had a hand in making the movie, because it really is, it to me, the only way I was kind of saying when it came out, I was just like, that's the most expensive fan made movie ever.
Absolutely.
So props to them. Any final thoughts for you?
Nope, that was it.
That's it. Yeah,
great. Go see it. Go see it again.
Yeah, definitely go enjoy it, because I've heard it's better the second time around. Because I mean, I'm sure we were all trying to take every little bit in. That once we can, now that we know the overarching story and everything else, we can sit and start looking.
I kind of want to watch it twice more. Once actually sober, and then once really drunk. just get a couple different opinions on it. I think that'd be fun.
I always see the first showing in 2D. I don't worry about the fancy stuff the first time, because I worry about the story. But I definitely want to see like IMAX 3D. They even have these theaters. I don't know if you've seen this, but around here it's pretty cool. They've got these theaters where the seats actually move with the action on screen and stuff.
People puke in those theaters so much.
So it's like I kind of want to see it in every iteration that I can. As it was,
Good luck with that.
As it was, we saw it on what they call an EMAX screen, which seems to be bigger but not an IMAX. And then it had Dolby Atmos sound, so we got the best sound out of it. So it was cool. But yeah, I want to see it as many times as I can in that experience, because once it's out in this home video, it's just going to be whatever home video situation you have, whether you have the digital sound or not. So.
And now in this world where everybody has all of these things to stream on Netflix and Prime Video and wherever else you'd like to stream your stuff, I mean, I still buy Blu-ray copies or digital copies or whatever of movies that I really enjoyed. Like, I've got a Blu-ray of Guardians of the Galaxy, for example.
Right.
And I've watched it exactly once since I bought it, because you don't do that thing anymore where you sit down and you pick something off the DVD shelf. They're more collector's items than anything else, so.
Yeah, to a degree.
It's a little sad.
Yeah, and I get that, but we've got, when we bought the house, we decided to kind of splurge a little bit. It's not huge compared to some people, I guess, but we got a 55-inch screen TV, and so the Blu-rays look really sweet on that. So we actually do.
How often do you watch them?
We do a Saturday night movie night pretty much every, and we yes, you can. It's a little far from Oregon, but no, we don't always, to be fair, we don't always go for something that we have on, disc, because I mean they have a ton of regular DVDs as well. But every once in a while we'll go through the Roku box or whatever else and get something off of Google Play, something newer, and rent that or something like that. But yeah, we try and make use of that stuff because it looks really good.
Bet.
There you
So that's
go.
our show.
Yeah,
We're done.
We were going to talk about Legion and stuff, but I knew we'd geek out on the movie too much.
We'll do that next.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's plenty.
We got our whole lives.
Yeah, we've got a lot of time. Well, not really a lot of time left, but we will still have some time before Legion.
Joe, are you okay? Okay.
No, I meant yeah.
I said our whole lives, and you're like, we don't have much time left. I'm like, oh God, you're not that old.
I know something you don't know. All right, I'll talk. Thanks, guys. Thanks for showing up. I'm glad we could geek out about the movie and. Yeah, so we'll come back next week. Definitely, I think we're going to talk about a lot of Legion Beta stuff. I've been playing a lot more. I actually leveled my Paladin up almost to 92 and did 3 dungeons, and I'm loving it. I am so actually pumped for Legion. I haven't said it much, but I really. So anyway, we'll talk more about that next week. And thanks, guys, for showing up, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.